get more questions from the people on YouTube than on Facebook, but I'll do my best to answer whatever does come up. Let's see, where's Facebook? There we go. Successfully. Cool. And YouTube. All right. Just to mute that. So, hey everybody, welcome to this week's Satsang with G. People will start arriving on YouTube very soon. I got my camera up there and the computer down here, so I can do both at the same time. Oh, and Lynn's here. So do tell me where you are. It's always really fun to see where people are. Usually there's folks from all over the world. Oftentimes the United States isn't the majority, actually. So at any rate, let me, well, YouTube people might be collecting. Thank you all for being here. Those of you who are on the mailing list may have been confused by the email that I sent out, which is kind of twice in a row. I sent out the email that there wasn't going to be a satsang when there was. So I'm sorry for any confusion about it for those of you who get the email. And I'm glad you're here on this Sunday afternoon on Happy New Year's Eve. Perhaps some of you are going to be going out later for the festivities and the like. I'm going to be just sitting right here. And Eli, hi Eli, he's in Appleton, Wisconsin. I've been there, actually. So what I wanted to start off before questions start coming in. The title of today's satsang was Just Be Empty. And emptiness is such a beautiful spiritual idea. And it really is the essence of all Buddhism. And recently I was aware of somebody I know, actually a student of mine, who had been exploring the idea of emptiness and became very frustrated and actually kind of abandoned the whole thing because it was just, there was nothing there. There was just nothing. There was just this big nothingness. And he wanted more things in his life and the like. Hello from Saratoga Springs. I was just there in the spring. So Suzanne, Matthew is in Saratoga Springs. Hi everybody. So good to have you. If you approach this idea of emptiness philosophically and just try to use it get it as a concept that your mind can wrap itself around, you're going to be very, very disappointed. Buddha himself was accused of nihilism, which is nothing really exists, no self, and everything is empty, and everything is empty of self-existence. And so he was accused of nihilism, which is exactly the opposite of what he actually taught. If you were something fixed, solid, this is what I am, you'd be stuck. You couldn't grow, you couldn't expand, you couldn't develop, you couldn't change anything, you couldn't learn, you couldn't make the kind of vast improvements in your life that all of us seek to make at various times, because you would be stuck as something. The whole idea of emptiness is that what it says is that you are not anything in particular. You're not stuck anywhere. You're not a thing that is this fixed thing, right? You are in fact the infinite potential to do anything, to become anything, to morph from one thing into another. And if you were something fixed, you couldn't do that. You would just be that. This is the essence of it. Emptiness is actually, it's the best word to describe what you actually are. You are empty of any fixed definition, any fixed idea, any fixed self, any fixed form, which gives you infinite freedom. You are never ever stuck anywhere. And the Sanskrit word for suffering, which is translated in the Buddhist text as suffering, is the word dukkha, D-U-K-K-H-A. And it literally refers to the hub of a wheel when it gets out of true and can't turn anymore. In other words, stuck. When the natural flow and rhythm and expansion of life gets stopped somewhere, you suffer. Suffering equals stuck. They're literally one and the same. So it's not that you are empty or void or there's nothing there. It's that you're not stuck anywhere. Now, to me, that's actually good news. I like the idea that I'm not actually stuck anywhere ever. I mean, think I am. I have all sorts of beliefs that I hold on to. I have all sorts of self-concepts that I cling to. I have all sorts of ideas about what I think I am. And then I go about trying to change those and get really frustrated because what I think I am just isn't changing fast enough. But the but the truth is that because I'm none of those things, I'm never really ever stuck anywhere. I live in infinite freedom, and so do you. This is the wonder of it. So when Buddha says there's no self, what he's saying is that there's no fixed self. I mean, consider anything, consider this cup, right? We agree it's a cup, it's a nice cup. Matter of fact, I've got mate and I have a very interesting little combination of yerba mate, coffee, coconut oil, and honey, and it's very good. I get to take a sip. Right, this cup, we know what it is. We talk about it. It has its uses. We pour stuff in it. But if I took this thing and I ground it into powder, so boom, no more. Where's the cup? The cup has no inherent existence. That is, this cup is simply a temporary form that we've gathered together certain kinds of particles and stuff to make it into this form, and it's temporary. Take away the form, take away that which makes it up, and where's the cup? It ceases to exist. This is all the Buddha meant by that it has no inherent existence. That is, it doesn't exist independent of something else. And look around the universe. Nothing exists independently of something else. Now, human beings have for centuries, for millennia, sought the first cause, that first thing that made everything else happen. For many, it was, it became God, and there was ideas about what God was, that there was something that started this whole chain going, because it was obvious that everything was dependent upon something else. I mean, it's perfectly natural for me to think, well, I'm here because my parents had fun one night, hopefully. And they're there because they're big, and so on and so on. So we say, well, there must have been a first, right? Well, Buddhism says no, there isn't. There isn't a first, that everything simply arises. And it arises in relationship to everything else, but it doesn't have a first cause or an origin. It is just kind of this infinite, perpetual arising. Now just ponder that for a second. That it's not that creation started at some time, I know 13.8 billion years ago for the Big Bang, or 6,000 years ago if you believe that, but that it's actually something that is constantly going on now. It is not a moment in time. It is actually the spontaneous arising from timelessness. Consider that. as an alternative way of experiencing your life, that your life is happening spontaneously right this second, and that there really isn't any kind of first cause. There isn't this great chain of causation that got set in motion that ended up with us here. Matter of fact, the Buddha's enlightenment on the day that he became the Buddha, it was when he saw through and saw that it was a projection of the mind, the idea of causal connection. He saw through it. There was no such thing as causal connection. There was simply the arising, the spontaneous arising of everything that we call creation, and that nothing had an eternal or fixed existence. It was simply all the happening of the happening. That was the beginning of the Buddha. It's really a very deeply significant thing to try to grasp, because we have our model, right? And our model is this, one form after another, and this makes this, and this makes this, and this makes this. And of course, if you're in spirituality, you're meditating in order to cause enlightenment to happen, or to try to be a better person, or to get merits in a next life. If you're in personal development, you're doing all sorts of things, making choices so that the next moment is going to be better. What if none of that was for real? What if all of that was empty? That is, even the teachings that we find to be the most, moving and stirring are also empty of inherent existence. Scott Renz, hello. Frida is watching. Hi, Frida. Let's see. Eli, Mary Gibson, Judy. Hi, Judy in Largo, Florida. Barbara Ingman in Sweden. It's great. London, Indus in London. Jason, Happy New Year, amigo. Hi, Jason. Shanika, hi, GP. This is my 2018 revolution. Empty everything in my head and enjoy the present moment. Wish you a healthy and prosperous New Year. Good. We're going to do some emptying here in just a second. She's from London. Claysu1, Claysu1. Happy New Year, GP. Love you. Have an empty, peaceful, full, and complete New Year. Beautiful. Yes, that is my full intention to do just that. So let me do a little exercise with you to just kind of experience this, because I don't really just want to talk about it, because emptiness is not a theory, it is when we are done with all theories, when all of our concepts and our ideas and our projections and our theories about what things are like is set aside, we simply experience things exactly the way they are. Kimo, happy New Year from Finland. Kimo, you guys are pretty close, like 6 hours ahead. So another couple hours, it'll be the new year for you. So everybody, just relax your body a second. If you want to close your eyes, you can. It's not necessary. It is kind of a meditation. But I want you to first put your attention in your body and just feel for a second. Just let yourself feel the fact that you exist, that you're here, that you are. Just feel your body. And notice you don't need any theories to feel your body. You don't need any concepts. You don't need any aids. You don't need any help. Nobody has to tell you about it. Nobody has to explain it in order for you to experience it. It requires no effort on your part whatsoever. It's just there. Now, as you're just sitting there being with your body, this experience of being, really, for a little bit, let's just let go of the past. Let's just set the past aside. Everything that you experienced up to this moment, right? Childhood traumas and disappointments and broken hearts and relationships that didn't work, or and all the happiness and joy and great stuff that happened in the past. Just, it's in the past. So we're just going to set it aside for a moment. Just going to just say, okay, I don't need to deal with the past right now. Even if there's hurts and stuff, or even stuff that really exciting, just no past. We're emptying ourselves of the past. It's not that it's not important. It's not a denial of, things that may have happened to you. We're just putting it aside for a minute. That's all. Just don't really need to deal with it right in this second. So now we're empty of the past. We're just here in the present. And now let's set aside the future, or your plans and aspirations, stuff you want to have happen, wish would happen, what you'd like to get, what you'd like to become, what you fear might happen, what you really would like to avoid. Just set all of it aside. For a moment, for this brief moment, there's no future. There's no concern about anything that has to do with the future. Now, of course, the past and the future could come up. Thoughts come up all the time about it. But we're just not going to activate them. We're not going to engage with them right now. We're just empty of the future. And now, empty yourself of the present. All the thoughts you have about yourself, the ideas, the concepts, the good and the bad. I'm really good at this, I'm really bad at that. Just that whole I narrative, just set it aside for a moment. It's like you don't even know what or who you are. You don't really know anything. You're just here. And just notice there's just this feeling of being. There's the sensations in the body, thoughts, feelings, they come. But without any kind of holding on to them, just being empty of all of that, they can just kind of move through. Don't cause any trouble. They don't make any problems. They just float on through. So now you're empty of the past. You're empty of the future. You're empty of the present. And even empty of what you're hoping to get out of this exercise, or hoping to gain from satsang. Even our desire for enlightenment, just put it aside. Don't even have that for a minute. So you're just empty. Now, putting everything aside, notice what you can't put aside. Notice what's left. After all of if you're emptied of everything, what's left? Are you still here? Are you still aware? Still conscious? Without any ideas or thoughts or concepts, without any past and future, it's just you. Just you, nothing else. Now, what does that feel like to just be you? Because we've let go of the past. You don't even have a name. No ideas, no preconceived notions. It's just you. What does that feel like to just be you? Try to describe it without a past, future, context, ideas. How do you describe it? How do you describe something that just is? Does it feel like it came from somewhere? Or does it feel like it's always been here? Does it feel like it's changed over time, or does it feel like it's always been the same? Have you noticed that in this pure emptiness, things get a lot calmer? Maybe your mind got a little quieter. Things going on around you just got a little softer. This is you. This is the empty you. And you're very much still here, aren't you? This whole idea of emptiness being nothingness. You're very much here. Does anything feel like it's missing here? Does it feel like anything's lacking here? This is simply, purely you. You can't describe it. You can't put it into words. you, I mean, you just, it's ineffable. It's indescribable. It's even actually even unknowable. There's nothing you can compare it to. It's just you. The only word that fits is, well, it's me. Anything else you add on to that is the past, the future, just ideas, thoughts. The only thought or word that can rightfully be associated with it is, what is that? It's me. So he said, well, who are you? Well, I'm that. What more do I need to be? I'm that. So now, as we get ready to come back from this little exercise, I want you to notice that it's quite okay. You can pick the past up. We all have stuff that happened in the past. There's stuff about the future that we care about and that we want. Something lots of us think about, especially on at New Year's time, and all of the relationships you have, and friends and lovers and family, and all the things that make up your present. Notice they can all be here, right? But none of those actually define who you are, do they? Does any one of those, or all of them put together, possibly describe you? And one other question. Could any of those things be here? The past, present, future, all of it. The entire structure and content of your entire life, could any of that been here without you being here first? Obviously not. They depend on you. This little tiny exercise is the doorway to genuine awakening. You're not awakening. Awakening is not an event that takes place. It's not this sudden angels singing and birds chirping and the like. It is the simple recognition that at the root of all of it is this simple, pure, innocent sense of being. And that sense of being is you. So you can all take a deep breath. If you've had your eyes closed, you can feel free to open them up and do a quick refresh here to see if I've got any comments or things happening on this guy up here on the other screen. Let's see. Frida Scott. Hi, Scott. Scott Renz. Vasilis Chrysalis. Jerry Camus. Suzanne Tamaro Masella. No, Mazzarella. Please forgive me if I butcher the names. I get people from all over the world and I can't always pronounce them correct. Dave Wheeler, Salona Carlisle. Hello, Salona. And Stuart. Frida, I think I mentioned Freedom. Corrine, another friend from high school. Hi, Corrine. Lisbeth. So I'd really like to, some more chemo. Happy New Year. Oh, Finland, we got here Carla from Mexico. Hi, Carla. The other son. So the floor is open now for questions about pretty much anything, or maybe you'd like to just say something about, or ask a question about that exercise. The people are often stunned at how simple and direct this whole spiritual journey actually is. We human beings really do like to complicate things. We've got these elaborate rituals and clothing and exercises and and monasteries and renunciation and all sorts of things. And none of it's really necessary because all of it points back to you. It all just comes back to you. And sometimes it does take a preparation of our character and our emotions and the like to to begin to get to the point where we can just simply sink in and stay in this place where we really are. Because you'll notice that there's an impulse, the past, the present, the future, they seem to have very powerful momentum. They seem to be influencing things. They seem to be drawing things. And there's a habit in us that wants to follow along in that direction. But if you just keep going back to this place where you recognize that you could put all of that aside with all of the momentum and everything, and you'd still be here. And suddenly you find you are really looking at things from your true position. And your true position is the self, the real you. The other son, S-U-N, says, hey, GP, what are your thoughts on parallel Realities. From a non-dual perspective, everything is connected. I get that. It's all a dreaming. So can we use the idea of parallel realities to our advantage? Or is it just getting in the way and reinforcing the ego? Well, the answer is both. We can use every idea and concept to our advantage. Remember, the non-dual is not just a perspective, one amongst many perspectives, right? The non-dual is the direct perception of what actually is, without projections, without filters, without buffers, and without concepts. It is what is. When you're talking about parallel realities, you're talking about the possibilities of simultaneous timelines and other dimensions and things that might be aware of us and we can't be aware of them. All of that is not only possible, it's probably likely. I mean, if you consider that we are all walking through parallel realities. Nobody sees the world the way you do. We get together and we talk about things and we agree. Is there anybody that you've it's always been, right down the line, we just agree on everything? There's always a slightly different perspective. I mean, even let's say you're the best loving couple in the entire world, so in sync and totally together, there's still going to be these tiny and beautiful little differences that actually make having a relationship wonderful and exciting and interesting. Otherwise, if everybody did see the world the way you did, it'd get really boring. It's like, is that, yeah, that's that. Is that, yeah, that's that. There'd be nothing new anymore. So there are 7.5, 8 billion parallel realities on the planet. That's not counting the animals. That's just humans, right? And dogs are a parallel reality. They live in a completely different world than we do. So first, recognize that this is the way actually it is. Every single individual experiences the world from a unique perspective. So when we start looking at the idea of how we are connected, right? I think a better way of looking at it is that we're actually different aspects of the same one thing. So it's not like we're connected. It's that we're not actually two. There's not two of us that have to somehow connect. That what we experience on this level as two connecting is actually one expressing itself. Now, take that a step further. Are there other levels even beyond, animals and insects, right? Which live in a reality of which we know nothing. They know nothing of ours. We seem to be occupying the same space, but they have no experience anywhere near ours. Which, of course, maybe is better. And of course, if smell is your thing, being a dog would be a whole lot better experience to have, right? If vision is, being an eagle would be much better. They see like for miles, absolutely crystal clarity. So all of that are different experiences of reality. Could there be other beings cohabiting what appears to us to be the same space? Absolutely, there could. I've used the example that if you're watching this on a Wi-Fi, I have my phone hooked up, which is going through Wi-Fi, going through a bunch of stuff, right? That Wi-Fi signal, right, goes through walls, doesn't it? So as far as the Wi-Fi is concerned, that wall isn't there. It's completely transparent. It's as transparent to that radio signal as the clear glass is to visible light. It's there, but it goes right through it. It's there as far as we're concerned. It doesn't exist as far as the light is concerned. It's poof, it goes right through it. Could there be other beings, right? Other conscious beings around? It's highly likely, But to get finally to your last question about, is it just getting away and reinforcing the ego? It really is irrelevant. Does it reinforce the ego? It can. You know, some people get very attached to their teachings, right? And they have really great stories about, you know, working with parallel realities, and you know, or maybe it's, you know, some kind of ritual that they do, or maybe it's working with crystals and all of that kind of stuff. You know, there's nothing wrong with any of it, but the moment I get attached to that story as if it was an ultimate truth, which of course is totally unverifiable, well, now I am in fact cutting off my nose to spite my face. As, as even Buddha said about all teaching was also empty. That is, there's no self-existence in teaching. There is no pure, perfect, absolute teaching. Everything is a perspective, is a perception. Everything is an alternate reality, a parallel reality. When we see that, what we're really talking about is a parallel experience. You have your experience, I have my experience, but in essence, we are all experiencing something of the one and only reality. There can only be one reality. You can't have two competing realities. So when people say that creating their own reality and experiencing reality, they're simply saying, I'm creating the experience that I prefer. Or I'm trying to make things the way I want them to be. Right? Reality is one. There can't be two of them. Like there can't be two absolute truths. You can't have two competing realities. A house divided against itself would just destroy itself. Right? So there aren't parallel realities, but there is an infinite continuum of experiences of reality. And that, to know that, is to be liberated. To know that reality itself is empty of any definition and cannot possibly be defined, and that the ultimate reality is the exercise I just took you to. That place where it's just you. That's reality. Everything else is laid on top of it. Everything else is an experience of it. And of course, without you first, there can be no experience. So I hope that answers your question, the other son. So yes, our egos can get wrapped up in our stories. And if we get attached to something as an absolute truth, the ego loves that, because then it feels safe and it feels better and it feels powerful and it's, you know, it's smarter than you are, right? But there's no such thing. It doesn't exist. All teachings are empty of self-existence. The only thing that isn't empty of self-existence is that which is self-existent, and that's you. That's you without any story associated with you. Chemo said, oh, and let's, Marie Porter, hello. Diane DeWitt, Dyer, hello, Diane. It's funny to see people who knew me from high school hopping on and watching. Kyle Toulson, I hope I said that correctly. If not, again, I apologize. Chemo Lesion said, isn't it true that we can't even say that there is consciousness, because there would have to be something else for consciousness to be conscious of? Duality again. Very, very good point. And yes, there is a time when all expression of consciousness, all statements about consciousness simply subside back into themselves. We can't talk about consciousness as an object, because that would make it a thing, and that would mean there had to be another consciousness that was looking at that consciousness to say that and point it and say consciousness. But that's the way our minds work. So it does things by creating objects and comparing the objects. That's the nature of mind and thought. It's the nature of language. So we are kind of contained within that when we're talking about it, but you're absolutely right. Consciousness isn't something you can say it is that. It's only a word that we have attached it. Consciousness is simply what you are. And you don't need a word for what you are. You don't need, you don't need to know a flower is called a flower in order for it to smell sweet. To get lost in the fragrance, you don't need a word. You don't need the word consciousness to be consciousness. So all of these words are skillful means. They are concessions to the human mind to slowly bring it back, gradually bring it back to the place where words can be relinquished into this realm of pure experience. So yes, whenever we're using words, we are skirting in duality. The art of it is to find the words that best point out of duality back into the non-dual reality that underlies it. And so it's just important to master those words and the combinations of words and metaphors and stories and koans and all the different ways in which we point you back to the direct experience itself. Does that answer your question? Kimo. Nice name, Kimo. Does that answer your question? Carla said, Nisargadatta once said that there would be a time when some beings will appear, but we must not take it seriously. Sometimes before I wake up in the morning, I can see some codes and templates and no problem with that. Not sure what you mean by codes and templates, but yeah, I mean, look, we have a certain idea of how the world is, and we always think that that's it until something else happens. I mean, it wasn't that long ago that, if you went faster than 60 miles an hour, you would die, right? They assumed that's the fastest that somebody could go, right? That we couldn't fly. I mean, really, if you look at all the wonders, folks, we're sitting here right now speaking in real time, seeing a picture all over the world simultaneously. That's pretty amazing. That was inconceivable when that was science fiction when I was a kid, that we would actually be having a telephone, which television, right? We're seeing each other while we're talking. Now it's on your phone. Now, you're holding a phone in your hand and you're like speaking to somebody on the other side of the world and looking at them. There are vistas and horizons that are yet to be discovered. There is no end to it, right? There is no end to this. We have no idea what's going to be coming. Our sense of reality is our conceptual sense of reality is a drop in the bucket, is a bubble of consciousness in an infinite multiverse of possibilities. So what we refer to as this knowledge and this these new possibilities and other beings and all that sort of stuff, all we're doing is talking about imagining something outside the boundary that we've already defined as reality. Guess what? That boundary doesn't exist. But things unfold over time, right? We didn't start with everything, laid on us, cavemen got the telephone. I mean, everything just has kind of evolved and unfolded over time, and just one thing leads to another. And it's just this beautiful unfolding that's taking place. And it's also asking something of us because, we have this knowledge, we have these technology, we have this stuff. It's inviting us to step into a level of spiritual maturity that we don't basically wipe ourselves off off the planet and take the planet with us potentially, because we can't handle the very things that we have discovered. It's a big invitation for us to grow up, for us to really see the miracle that this is, the miracle it has become, the miracle of possibility, and take mature ownership of it. Right? It's kind of what's been asked of us. Right? And Carla continued. Once I saw two grays, and I asked myself if I'm interested, why if I am not interested in these beings, I'm assuming somewhere else you're going to say that they were coming. There's no need when we have extraordinary events take place. You know, maybe you have a premonition, maybe you see things that aren't there, maybe you just know something is going to happen. Don't make a big deal out of them. They only seem like a big deal because they're out of our ordinary, but our ordinary is only our little conceptual framework, and it's not real. So when something from out of the ordinary comes, don't try to explain it, right? Oh, visitors from another planet or, you know, other dimensions, because we have no idea. We haven't got a clue as to what it is, right? All we know is, oh, something beyond what my normal sense of reality is intruding itself, which means I need a bigger sense of reality. Use it as an opportunity to expand your sense of what is true. And then you'll find that you are this constantly evolving, growing thing that is the emptiness that I was talking about at the very beginning. And at the same time, this absolutely constant, unchanging beingness. Kelly Fisher, hi Kelly. If there's a here, then there must have been a there. So then there is a time lag between them. These are the building blocks of the matrix we experience. How are you, my friend? Very good, Kelly. That, yeah, here and there are ideas that we have. The reality is none of us have ever experienced anything other than here. We look over there, but our experience of there is actually taking place right here. I hope this doesn't go, you know, over the heads of people. But everything you experience here. You never experience there. You never experience the past. You never experience the future. You only experience now. You have thoughts about the past, thoughts about the future. They're just thoughts happening now. Now and here are the only things you have ever known. When we think here and there and create an image in our mind of the universe as this spatial matrix of objects rather than the unified singular presence of one, then we create a here and a there, which don't actually exist. And of course, I say here is the only thing you experience, because if all there is, then there's not even a here. There's just, you just are, which is the point I keep getting. It's the simple point I keep trying to bring us constantly back to. You just are. In that exercise I did at the beginning, we just got to the place where there was just nothing left except you. No past, no future, no present, no ideas, no concepts, nothing except you. And it's a pretty nice place, isn't it? Let's see. Hope that answered your question, Carla. The other son, thanks, GP. That clarified many things for me. Great, 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 great. Good question. Great, great answer. Thank you. I think you were saying that to Carla, and well, to me too. And another smiley face that kind of looks like Pac-Man. Chemo said, beautiful, thank you. Good. Okay, I got it. Good. The other son says, we still need flying cars and teleportation. I agree. I agree. I thought by this time we would have flying. There are flying cars. They still have to fly within the system and the like. We're getting closer. I really am sad that I was born 50 years too early, because technologically things are going to be really miraculous. Right? If we don't wipe ourselves out, if we learn how to be really responsible. The earth is an infinite resource. It will constantly replenish itself, as the human body does, as life does, if we don't stress it beyond what it can recover from. If we work with it, if that becomes our model, we become really loving. There is absolutely no limit or no end. We have all the time that the earth has to develop and expand and have flying cars and completely a completely different direct physical experience of life. Jerry Sutta, the principle of the internet has always existed. Yes, absolutely correct. The potential for flight always existed. Everything we're experiencing right now has always existed. The potential for it has always been there. It's always been this this gradual awakening to it that is happening. And that awakening is what we experience of it. But because the potential was there the entire time, we couldn't deal with it. It was fine. Reality was just fine. Just kind of, well, they'll get along. They'll get along. They'll be along any minute now. The other son, Jerry Sata, everything has always existed. Yes, until it is perceived. Now, there's a very interesting one. And one, I won't go into it too deeply, but I would love for you to ponder this. And it's a very useful and powerful question to take into your heart, not just in your head, but into your heart. Does anything exist before it's perceived? And is it even possible to know? I mean, before it's perceived, I have no idea. So the actual experience is something arises in my perception and I have no idea where it actually came from. Did it exist somewhere and then come into my perception? Or did it appear spontaneously in that moment to my perception? Perception is the vehicle through which everything is experienced. Nothing happens outside of perceiving, right? You can't perceive that which you haven't perceived. You can't do it. In Sanskrit, they have an expression that's drishti shrishti vada, which means nothing exists until it is perceived. It could be the perceiving itself that calls it up, and prior to that, it did not exist at all. Our modern material orientation, which is the one that picked up even on the law of attraction, is that it does exist somewhere and it's now coming into my realm of perception. And therefore my perception is itself contained and finite. Okay? Is that true? Is there really such a thing as finite perception? Does what is being perceived exist independently of the perceiving of it? That question will take you right to the heart of awakening. Because you know who you are, the emptiness, the sense of being. Now, the question is, what about everything else? What is this other that I'm experiencing? What is this there that I'm experiencing? It is a deeply profound question, but it's more than philosophical. This is not just an interesting non-dual idea, because the entire world is functioning from the point of view that it does exist independently of my perception of it. Buddha would disagree, as would Nisargadatta, Ramana Maharshi, Muji, Papaji. They would disagree. That is the non-dual thread. Kelly, a new discovery usually means that we created an instrument to bring something into focus that has always been there. Yes. Yes, the spontaneous appearing, the appearing of something lets us know that the potential for that thing has always existed. The potential has always been there. Did it always exist? Yes. If you look at it in terms of potential, the answer is yes. If you look at it in terms of the form that it's in that moment, the answer is no, it didn't. I mean, you didn't exist before this second. Everything about you has been changing. Every cell in your body is turning over so quickly. Millions of cells a second are dying and being reborn, right? So you are constantly coming into existence and going out of existence. It is miraculous to ponder, not just something interesting, but because it's a completely different way of looking at the universe. It's a completely different non-material understanding of the nature of the universe, which is the consciousness model of the universe rather than the matter model. Julia Meyer. Hi, GP. Happy New Year from Germany. Wonderful. Hi. GP, that what is what I really am doesn't think because all thoughts arise in it, but there are thoughts that point to the real self also without a thinker. Couldn't have said it better myself. You are absolutely correct. Thoughts arise. We think of ourselves as the doer of deeds and the thinker of thoughts, which of course is itself just a thought. But to know yourself as you actually are, you find that thinking is just happening. You're the witness to thinking. You're not the thinker. You're the witness to desire. You're not the desirer. You're the witness to creativity. You're not the creator. You're something far more subtle and fundamental. The consciousness in which it all takes place. So Julie continues. So in some way, consciousness can recognize, remember itself also in thoughts. Yes, just the way you recognize yourself in a mirror. Consciousness recognizes itself, which is you. Remember, you're the consciousness. You recognize yourself in thoughts. That instinct of what's true, the aha moment, are really consciousness, you, the real you, recognizing itself. The truth recognizing the truth. So of course it's going to recognize itself. Everything recognizes itself, and everything recognizing itself is a reflection of consciousness knowing itself. Consciousness knows itself as consciousness, but doesn't think of itself as consciousness because that's dualistic. It just is. And because it is, everything is. The nature of consciousness, the nature of being, is infinite unfoldment. And yet, paradox of paradoxes, the infinite unfoldment springs from that which never changes. And yet what unfolds is never the same. It's forever change. There's nothing but change. I don't care how thinly you time slice. Take the thinnest band of time you can, and you will not find anything fixed there. You will only find emptiness. It's like this body. You zoom in at the molecular level and space, and you don't exist. You're not there. Okay? You only exist from this particular narrow band of self-aware consciousness, that the consciousness that is aware of this body. Shrink that consciousness down, and nope, you're not there. Can't see any form to it whatsoever. Everything is like that. Take everything like that. You can take that cup I was referring to, either the phone you might be watching this on, or the computer. Break it down, and what do you find? There's nothing there. And yet it's there. That's why Buddha, they accuse Buddha of saying that nothing exists. And he says, no, it neither exists nor does not exist. Of course it's here. We're talking on it, right? And yet when you break it down, you can't find anything there. This is the wonder of existence. It is empty, and yet at the same time, it is full. It's a cup, right? I can break this down. There's no cup left. There's no cup there, but yet at the same time, there's cheers, right? This is the wonder. The reality of the non-dual reality is neither existence nor non-existence. It is simply is. It just is. I get so excited about this. I hope that covered it for you, Julia. The other son said, use the out of ordinary as an opportunity to expand your sense of what's true. Beautiful. Yes. Out of ordinary is simply that. It's out of ordinary. If we go, oh, it's mystical, it came from somewhere, we're trying to explain something we don't understand because we don't like not knowing stuff. That's kind of the human condition. We kind of like want to make stuff up so that we have an explanation for things. But why don't you say, whoa, what the hell is that? I have no idea. Right? Completely out of the ordinary, doesn't fit, no explanation. There's a part of us that wants afraid of that, but because it feels more safe when things don't change. But at the same time, it's just, yeah, well, there it is. If we used it as an opportunity to expand ourselves rather than fight against these things or grab them, control them, keep things the same, we would just find just infinite play. We just, there'd be utter continual delight at the unfoldment of a universe that is inexhaustible in what it creates. And you find yourself to be this beingness right at the center of it. And nothing's lost. And you find that the best word that expresses this incredible motion of infinite potential and the unfoldment and manifestation is the word emptiness, or shunyata, which is the Sanskrit word. This, which literally means a pregnant emptiness. It is just this fullness that is emptiness. It is the infinite variability, the infinite potential that is never stuck anywhere. The universe has no concrete, fixed definition. It is constantly morphing itself, as are you. So we're getting on time here. If there are any more questions, now would be the time to bring them up. Otherwise, I will let you all get back to your preparation for New Year's celebrations. Some of you may be in parts of the world that are already there. I think Germany is probably about 11 o'clock, so you're almost there. So I appreciate you joining me for a late night satsang. So it does look like the questions slowed down. Wonderful. So I want to thank you all for being here as always. It's always such a joy to get to sit here and engage with all of you. I'm so appreciative of you that you have, that you care, that pondering this deeply profound subject has touched you, that you recognize the profundity of it, because many don't. Jason says, thanks for everything, G. Shamsa said, do we have any free will? Thank you for sharing today. Happy New Year, G. Causeless Joy Tarot. Do we have any free will? I don't really have, and that is such a huge subject. And again, it depends on the level at which you perceive it. On a certain level, we do. I choose this, I choose that. But the deeper you go into it, the more you find that free will is really just something that happens. Choosing happens, but there's no chooser. Just ponder that until I have a chance. Maybe next week, bring it up more early. So thanks again, Other Sun. Happy New Year to everyone. Yes. Oh, it's already 2018 here. Kimo, which you were in Germany, I think. That's fantastic. Thank you and Happy New Year. Yay. And thank you from England. Boy, it's so great to just be with you. Be with you all. Free will is a perception, useful but temporary. The Other Side. Yes, it is a perception. And all perception is subject to change, subject to revision without notice. So thank you all. I love you all. And namaste.